This episode of Shit Island was recorded in front of a live studio audience.
That was good.
Welcome everyone.
Yes, welcome
to Shit Island, which is a podcast.
Which is way better than Cumtown.
Don't talk about other podcasts on the first episode of our podcast. We should probably introduce ourselves for those who don't know who we are. I am Azure Scapegoat of YouTube fame. I'm joined today by Julia and Peter.
Of little to no fame or accord at this moment, yeah.
We were on the, city planning, the city skylines thing.
That is true. You might remember me from a few classic zingers that mostly didn't land on the on the live stream.
So, we have 3 topics that we are going to cover in this pilot episode of Shit Island. The first of which is gentrification and or human placement by economic interests.
Yes, fun stuff.
This is going to be a comedy podcast.
Indeed. Well, to be fair, I think this is a funny theory, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of the expert on this, Julia. Could you...
Yeah, so remember how on, the city skyline stream we put all the gay people into the pit? Well, that's actually an actual thing.
That's misrepresenting what was happening, I think.
No, I'm sorry.
We didn't take specifically gay people and put them in pits.
No, that was the narrative.
We just put people in general into a pit. And
then we just figured out a gay.
Well, no.
There's a theory behind it. There's a theory behind it. It's sound economic planning. Don't worry. It's good.
I mean, you figured. We just played along with it.
Yes. So, anyway, what I'm getting at here is this interesting theory of Richard Florida and the creative class. And his idea is, we're living in the post-industrial, post-modern, post-everything world now. So we no longer have the old, Marxist class thing, no more proletarians, no more bourgeois. No, we have the creative class. And the creative class are, people who... it's not very well defined, but they basically work with their brain. As you might figure by now, this covers a lot of people. Depending on how narrowly you want to define this, it can be like, over half the population. And according to Richard Florida, this is a very important segment of the population to the economy. And I would generally agree, 50% of the population is indeed important to the economy.
Hold on. His name is Richard Florida?
Yes.
As in the state Florida?
Yes.
That's a porn name if I've ever heard one.
It is. I did not believe it was a real name either when I first heard it, but it is indeed a real name. Strangely enough.
It reminds me of the famous sociologist Guy Standing.
That's a better name.
Yeah. I believe on Wikipedia for a while, the image they used of him was him sitting in a chair, and the tagline was "Guy standing sitting."
That's amazing. Yeah.
I
Richard Florida is definitely in witness protection.
No, he should be. He should be.
His name was something like Richard Spengler, and then he got lazy when he came to choosing his name. He just looked at a map and went Florida, I guess.
It was the intern's turn to pick the witness protection guy's name at the FBI.
Yeah.
It's like how we came up with another name for this podcast. Not a lot of work went into it, people.
Anyway, you were saying, sorry I interrupted.
So you have all these, creative people who, have to work with their mind, and because, your mind is not exactly, like traditional capital. It's not like a machine or like a shop or something which you can sell off.
Speak for yourself.
Well, yeah, that's one of the problems with this thing, But his idea is that, so seeing as a lot of the economy relies on, these people with, their brains, we got to stimulate those brains. What's a great way to stimulate these brains? Well, put them next to a gay bar. Because apparently, don't ask me how, but somehow, if these people are near a gay bar, they become more creative. So the best way to measure how well a city is doing in terms of the economy and how innovative they are is by measuring how many gay people are in that city.
It makes sense, though. I mean, there's a lot of disposable income. There's
No. You're getting it wrong. It's not. This has nothing to do with the actual gay people. They're just there as like zoo animals for like these creative people to look and go like, oh.
No, but gay people actually have standards, and like they won't go to places that look gross.
Well, that's a fair point.
That is true. Of all of the gay bars I can think of, I can't think of any that are like disgustingly revolting.
Yeah.
As opposed to many of the normal bars that I see around.
That is fair.
All the gay bars I've been to have been in very like high culture areas, or it's become a place of culture after the gay bar came anyway.
The one I went to had very overpriced drinks. I just remember that.
Yeah, you can get the best shots at gay bars. I don't know. Gay people know how to make shots.
Well, it's good for them.
Must be something in their genes.
Must be. We must consult the alt-right for an explanation why gay people make great shots.
They probably have one, actually.
They probably do.
Yeah.
Was it the alt-right or was it the incel community? Very important distinction there.
Oh, yes.
One of them, for a while at least, had a theory that gay people didn't exist. And that people who say that they are gay are really just pretending.
Interesting.
All day.
And it's not even like where really evangelical conservatives like believe that certain people are gay, but that they can be turned straight with like conversion therapy or whatever. But these guys were like all the way like, no, they're just pretending, they're just lying. It's impossible to be gay.
Yeah, I have a friend who's he is gay himself, and he's generally like a reasonable person, but he believes that being gay is due to a hormonal imbalance, and that if only gay people like balanced their hormones, they would turn into straight people. So I don't know. It's pretty insane.
There is some scientific truth to that. I know that trans women who take estrogen are more likely to find that they are attracted to men after they've been on estrogen.
Yeah.
But they probably were attracted to men at least a little bit before they took estrogen. It just made them more attracted to men.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that there is something to that. I don't know. I think, whenever you make a typology or you put people in camps, there's always going to be the exception. But I would have to see a bunch of studies to prove that gayness could be measured through your hormones.
Yeah. Look out for any studies funded by the gay lobby. Just those.
That sounds like a lot of work. I mean, imagine reading studies as preparation for this podcast.
I mean, I did a bit of work for one of the things we're going to talk about.
And that keeps baffling me, but okay.
What do you mean? This is a quality podcast.
We were talking about...
about gay people in the economy. Yes. So basically, it's not just gay people. It can be any, basically marginalized group, any group which is not just the norm. And if you put them somewhere, like in the city, because that's, nice and efficient, you can get a whole bunch of them close together, and that's efficient. You can get a bunch of these creative people, and sort of like a zoo, you can walk through these different neighborhoods and see how, the gays live and how the immigrants are doing, and from that maybe get inspired to make a more efficient Excel spreadsheet, I guess. I don't really know how it translates ultimately into, better economic performance, but just seeing these gay people helps this creative class.
Counterpoint to that theory, ethnic minorities tend to live in poor areas.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Well, you take a car, I guess, and go through this neighborhood and, I don't know, look out the window. Don't go outside
Do
the
a
car.
lot of creative people do that? Just go sightseeing in poor neighborhoods?
Shockingly, a few do, yes. That is actually a thing that happens, yes.
That's absurd.
That is the thing that happens, yeah. People like to go slumming in poor neighborhoods.
Yes, they want to see how the lower classes live.
Yeah, it's called wealth tourism.
I know that rich kids or rich teenagers who are into hip hop will tend to go to the poorer neighborhoods that they did not grow up in, and like, I don't know, take selfies and pretend that they grew up there.
Yeah,
Because the poor neighborhoods are the ones with the hip hop culture.
that's true.
And
Yeah.
if you're a rich white kid, then you don't have any connection to hip hop culture. But if you like hip hop culture, then you can pretend to be lower class.
Yeah, and same with young people who go to poor countries and take selfies of themselves surrounded by poor people and put it on Instagram to get some social capital that way.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, take a selfie with like a Syrian refugee. It's like, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past someone like Logan Paul to do that.
Oh, no, probably won't.
I know some people like that.
I know people like
There
that,
you
yeah.
go.
I think everyone knows someone.
Yeah, I got into a very heated argument about that with one of my friends who went to, I think, Ghana, and basically just took up space from what I've heard. But he was very adamant that it was very important work that he was doing, but all he seemed to be doing was surfing and taking selfies with starving people.
Oh, God.
So here's the question though. Is he a creative person? Is he a member of the creative class?
I mean, I think he owns a car dealership now, so he's definitely creative.
Oh yeah, no, that's middle management. That falls under the creative class because reasons.
Speaking of creative class, I just recalled North Korea has creative people as a class alongside the proletariat and the peasants. Because the Workers' Party of Korea has the hammer and the sickle, and then in the middle there's a paintbrush that represents creative people and intellectuals.
I mean, they do have some bomb-ass statues in North Korea.
That they do.
They do. They actually export them to various countries.
I heard about that, yeah. Like, African dictators love the statues they make in North Korea, so they make beautiful statues of dictators or, like, brutal leaders and ship it off to them. I mean, if you have to have a thing, that's a pretty badass thing to have as a country. Statues.
I wonder
I'm gonna get one of those
how
things one day.
much of the percentage of the GDP of North Korea is just bronze statue production.
Do they have to import the bronze? That's the real question.
I mean, where would they import it from? I guess maybe China?
Maybe,
But
yeah.
China isn't on very good terms with North Korea lately.
Yeah, maybe that could crash the North Korean economy if they ran out of bronze.
They can't make bronze statues anymore.
Oh, that would be tragic.
Oh yeah, jeez.
So, Jules, your honest opinion, this theory about the creative class and gay bars.
I'd say it's largely bullshit. I think there's like some small truth to it in the sense that, not in the way he's putting it, and also there's a lot of other problems with the way he's putting it. Because in his thing, it is very important that gay people and ethnic minorities never ever become equal to the standard. They should never become not marginalized, because then they lose their, creative appeal, which is kind of fucked up. But if you take it more broadly, just like, have some art galleries, maybe like a couple of museums around to, I don't know, entertain these creative people, maybe give them some ideas somehow. They can glean from, I don't know, a history museum. Yeah, fine. Just measuring economic growth by how many gay people are in this neighborhood. It's a stretch.
It seems like an excuse for landlords to hike up the rent, if anything, and to attract people who are rich. And I bet they have some kind of idea that gay people in general make more money than straight people, or have more of an income that they can spend on cafes or whatever. So it drives up the businesses in the local area.
I know, I feel like it's very important that gay people don't have money in this scenario, that they remain like the zoo animal for the others to look at and get inspiration from.
I don't think that's the motivation behind gentrification in relation to
not
homosexuals.
gentrification. I was just talking about, this theory.
Oh, wow.
Broader gentrification, sure, I guess. But no, in this specific theory, it's quite imperative that they don't become, normal, as quotes.
Yeah, that sounds like total bullshit.
Oh yeah.
There's also the thing with correlation does not equal causation.
Yeah.
Where a city that, or like a district of a city that has more wealth might also have gay bars, but gay bars do not cause wealth.
Ooh, you're saying something very controversial now. No, I agree. I think it's a stupid fucking theory. It's one of the stupidest I've ever heard, and it's strangely popular.
And stupid theories will always have a home on Shit Island.
Indeed, they will.
Yeah.
Send in your stupid ideas to... Alright.
Yes, please do. To, what is it? shitislandshow@gmail.com. Do you have a bad take about something? Share it with us and we'll gladly talk about it or whatever.
Send in your hot takes.
Yes.
All of your most controversial ideas. Send them in and we'll make fun of you.
All the things you're afraid to tweet about, send it to us.
Yes, we'll tweet about it. We have no standards.
We will expose it. And you.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, be sure to include your Twitter and your home address, social security number, bank account,
name of
information.
employer.
Mother's maiden name.
Yeah, your family pet.
Only if you include all these things will we talk about it.
City of birth as well.
Yeah, street.
Yeah.
Credit card number, expiration date, and the 3 numbers on the back.
Analysis of your last 5 dreams.
That's it. What?
Oh, wait, you want to get on some Jungian shit now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
sure. I'm always up for that.
we're all Jungians, I presume.
Well, yeah, sure.
This is about the time in the show when we have to acknowledge the fact that running a podcast, it's not free.
And we like money.
And that is why this episode of Shit Island is brought to you by Shit Island Intersex Vitality Pills for increased sexual confidence for all intersex or gender non-conforming individuals. Sign up now for a free Donald Trump ate my baby and I'm so thankful he's our president bumper sticker.
I mean, can I just share my story with this product?
Yeah.
I have 5 bumper stickers. They're all on my bike. People love it. I am just the most popular guy when I'm biking to my very leftist university. So thank you so much, Shit Island Intersex Vitality Pills. You've changed my life already.
Jules, what's your experience with this product?
It's fucking great.
Well, I mean, like, you people don't know it, you people listening, but this podcast has been underway for about 6 years now, and we've been testing these pills for 6 years, and it's worked wonders for all of us, I'd like to say, in different ways. It's made my penis grow bigger for some reason. I don't know why, but definitely try it. It has very varying results, but it's something we're selling, and we like money, so buy it.
Yeah.
Yes, consume. Consume.
Money is your god.
It is. Hail money.
Hail money indeed.
So the Shit Island Intersex Vitality Pills are available for $69.99 at shitisland.bigmilk.money/forward/give-us-money.wednesday. Thank you.
.geocities.com.
Yep.
I know GeoCity, you can still go on GeoCity websites, but can you actually still make them?
I mean, there's still a bunch of them online. Like there's the old Space Jam website from the 90s. I don't know if you can still create GeoCities websites. I mean, that would be awesome, and I would definitely create my website using 90s technology.
I'm gonna go on geocities.com.
Okay. Just a quick thing. I'm young here. I'm not as, experienced in life as you two are. What the hell are GeoCities.something?
It was the first WordPress, basically. You could create your own website easily, but they were all pretty terrible, and they had those terrible animations and early versions of GIFs, and they all had very bright backgrounds and screaming colors and 3D text, and it was glorious, and it made the early internet just wonderful for everyone to look at.
Yeah. GeoCities was really the first way that anyone could just make something on the internet.
Yeah, and if anyone listening hasn't seen the Space Jam website, Google it right now. It is a work of art, and I hope they never take it down.
I have no idea. It's Warner Brothers that owns that, right?
Yeah, they own it, and they just never. I think they just forgot to cancel the domain, or they just bought a 50-year domain lease on it or something in the 90s. I don't know.
I don't think it's possible to buy a domain lease for that long.
No, you'd think so, but this was in the early days of the internet, so maybe they just got a wonderful deal by some websites. I don't know.
Maybe, or they just thought Space Jam would be popular until the 2050s.
Maybe it's a conscious decision by them to keep it up, like they're keeping it for the alien invasion or something. This is what we want the aliens to see when they do get to Earth. Like, it's see, we have cooperated with aliens in the past with this sports star, so you should definitely spare our lives.
After climate change or nuclear apocalypse or whatever it is destroys humanity, the Space Jam website will be the only thing left of our species.
They're carving the HTML into stone plates in the desert right now.
That's an interesting thing. There are multiple like apocalypse stones that have like there's one in the US. Is Georgia, I think?
Yeah.
That has written in 5 languages instructions for how to build a society after the world ends.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah, and Scientology has done it too. They have some desert facility where they have translated every L. Ron Hubbard text into every language into stone tablets. And I think the Mormons have done it too. They've done it in like 200 languages and hidden it in the desert somewhere.
Huh. I mean,
who's going to find it there, though?
Yeah, I was just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if I'm... Okay, so, I don't know, the bombs fall, everyone's dead. I crawl out of my room and, find out that the world is destroyed. I have to somehow rebuild civilization. I'm not going to go out into the middle of the desert and wonder, like, oh, did someone leave something? And now I'm going to go to the cities and poke around in these ruins.
Dig through the sand.
Yes, just see, like, maybe somewhere, just...
I know that
digging.
The Scientology, they've done basically huge crop circles, which are visible if you Google it. The Scientology, what's it called? Something like Religious Technology Institute or something. You'll see that there's where they buried it. They've created these large symbols for people who are up in space looking down on the world on that part of the desert that they can easily see it. Basically, it's how they keep finding new pyramids. Is they've left like huge unseen geographical shapes in the ground that point to the pyramids we've still not yet dug out, and that's what they're doing too. I think they're hiding these centers, but then giving directions to aliens to find the holy texts hidden in the desert somewhere.
Who's going to ever find this? This is just a bad idea.
I'm honestly a bit surprised that Scientologists believe the Earth is round and that space travel is a real thing.
Right? Yeah.
Like I would have thought they would be the pioneers of a flat Earth theory, and that NASA and all of that is just myth.
Well, I mean, they do combine science with tology, so
that is fair.
What is tology?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's a Zach Galifianakis joke I just stole. Sorry.
Oh. Well.
Yeah, we'll have to pay him some royalties now.
Zach, if you're listening to this, send an email.
Send an email, yeah.
Shit Island
Give us
Show.
your worst take. Give us your worst political take, and we'll put it in the podcast.
Also tell us what you think about, the whole creative class thing we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and why are you listening to this podcast, Zach? I mean...
That would be the real question, I think, but I don't know. Let's leave some mystery in his life, I think.
Let's just assume from now on that he was listening to this episode.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone tweet at Zach Galifianakis and ask him what he thought of Shit Island episode 1.
Oh, that's great.
Don't send him a link to the episode or anything. Just ask him, what do you think? Just assume that he already listened
Just
to it.
assume that he knows what it is and to listen to it.
And where to find it.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the next topic?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Artist alienation is a topic that I believe Peter came up with.
Yes, Peter is you did film school, so...
Yes, absolutely. This is something that I'm very interested in, or at least have been in the past, about how... Okay, how do I start this? Okay, so...
I think start with explaining what alienation is.
Yes, do you know this guy called Karl Marx?
No.
No. Does it have to do with the movie Alien?
Sort of.
Alright, cool.
In a very, very, very roundabout way, it maybe does.
Okay,
No, but
well, I'm
Oh no, I know him. He was the director of They Live.
of Alien. Or is that other movie with the alien which comes out of the stomach? I forget the name.
No, it's called They Live.
yeah, I mean, you're very close. He was one of the Marx brothers, if you've seen Duck Soup or something. Yeah. When he got older, he started writing some philosophy and came up with some political stuff. And he came up with this concept of reification, which is a fancy way of saying objectification of human beings. And then it basically means, and translated and developed by Georgi Lukács and the Frankfurt boys, shout out to my Frankfurt school, into meaning that when you live in a capitalist society where everything that matters is just the bottom dollar and like making money off of a product, everything starts to become the same, and we start treating people and artists like objects. And when you treat someone like an object, they become a commodity themselves. You know how you talk about, in this context, alienation refers to the alienation from the artist to what they create. So when, say, Ed Sheeran, that's me being young. Who's a cool artist right now? I'm old.
Post Malone.
DMX,
the Beatles, whoever you youngsters are listening to right now.
Yes.
Definitely the Beatles.
The Beatles, they're hot right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
When they if they want to have their music heard, they have to sign a record contract with some company, and those contracts give away their rights to their songs. So someone like Paul McCartney has been fighting for 50 years to regain the rights to his own music. So he's making 5 or 6% of the money that his music actually makes, and the rest of the money goes to the record label because of some contract that was signed in 1962 or whatever. So there is the reason that I wanted to talk about this is I think it's an interesting topic to talk about how every facet of capitalist society alienates you from your labor, even the ones we don't think of. Because when we think of successful musicians, we think of people who are millionaires. But their labor, the stuff that they've actually produced, is actually something that could have made them even richer, or have spared them a lot of the hardship that is dealing with these record companies and the ways that we treat celebrity as objects in tabloids and in even business deals socially. They become extremely alienated. They become these objects of fancy for society to stare at, and they don't even have the rights to their own music or movies or whatever. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Another kind of alienation that exists for most people who work is the alienation from what you, the worker, believe that you can ideally contribute to society, as well as what you want to do with your time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you are living in poverty and you need to work in order to pay rent and buy food, then you will have to get, the job that pays the most, preferably for the least amount of hours, so that you still have a bit of free time. But often, even that has to be sacrificed. If you have a family, you'll often sacrifice your free time for them, working overtime and such. And the work that you get is often mind-numbingly boring. It's not something that you want to be doing. It's not something that's fun or fulfilling, or that you feel in any way makes the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And that alienates you from the product of your labor.
Mm-hmm.
You do not feel that your work has any purpose. All you're doing is spending a bunch of hours doing stuff that you need to do in order to not die or not have your family die.
Have you seen that movie Office Space?
Yes, a long time ago.
It's a wonderful portrayal of what it's like for most people to work in the modern economy, of just these people who are cooped up in these tiny cubicles and taken away from real life, like not being able to see the sun at any point during the day because they go into work before the sun rises and leave after the sun has set. And it does become this prison of the mind in many ways to not be able to enjoy any facet of daylight. Mm-hmm. And you just turn into this robot that just does whatever is expected of them, and often to no praise or no notice by people who run the company.
And another part of alienation is that even if you work really hard, nothing really comes of it, and at least nothing that you can tell instantly. Of course, there's the chance of promotion, but usually that requires social capital. It's not just based on merit, it's also based on, does your manager like you, essentially.
Yes.
And if you work in, one of the offices in Office Space, and you crunch the numbers, you do whatever it is that your job description, wants you to do, and you work really, really hard one day, and then you work very little, the absolute minimum, the next day. At the end of the day, nothing has changed. The only difference is the amount of profit that you have made the CEO of the company, none of which you will see.
Correct, yeah.
Whereas if you are a doctor, for example, and you work really, really hard, you will save people's lives. And that is an immediate benefit to society as a whole that you see, and something that is fulfilling. Knowing that thanks to you and thanks to your hard work, someone is alive who otherwise would not be. And if you do not work hard, then people will die. That is an example of a work or a career that is not as alienating as working in an office, for example.
Yeah, and obviously not everything comes down to material
Yes.
gain, and that's a great example of it. And it's more just the fact that I've been in many discussions where people talk about people who are artists or people who succeed as if they've had everything made. But what you often see is artists kind of lose their minds or kind of go crazy once they become successful. And that's because of all the stress and pressure that comes from these people at the top, like the bourgeoisie, if you want to be formal, the people who actually benefit off of the labor that people in the creative arts make for us to enjoy, be it in movies, television, music, whatever. It's often a great source of discomfort and alienation for the people who actually create it, because they're pressured into creating the same product every time with different spins, or products that imitate other products that have shown to be successful. Horkheimer made a very good point in, I think, saying that every piece of art in capitalist society is basically an imitation of something that came before. So there's very little life in what a capitalist society produces. And I'm not a huge fan of the Soviet Union personally, but if you looked at their cinema and what they produced, it was often very varied and took a lot of chances and very experimental. And a lot of the techniques and storytelling methods that Hollywood uses today actually derives from Russian cinematography or directing. Someone like Tarkovsky was incredibly influential on Stanley Kubrick and the people that we actually talk about. And a lot of the camera techniques were pioneered in the Soviet Union because there was this belief that art should be on its own, or should be judged on its own merit, and not and to give more autonomy to the people who actually created it. I know it's not the biggest problem in the world. I know it sounds very poor me when an artist who has millions of dollars or whatever complains about being alienated from their art, but it does have an impact on society as a whole. And I feel like we need to acknowledge that this reification happens in every strata of our society, and not just in the immediate. Like, the people who benefit from capitalism directly are often victims themselves of being, dominated by the system that helped them become important, basically.
And I mean, alienation for artists exists even for those who aren't famous or those who don't make money.
Absolutely.
Because making art, just in general, making music or movies, is very difficult if you don't have capital.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, it's possible for you to make a single and put it on SoundCloud or iTunes or wherever, and become recognized and become super famous that way. The internet has made that possible. But because everyone can do it, that means that the market, so to speak, is heavily saturated. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's putting their singles on SoundCloud.
Yes, and it's screwing over the artists even more than they were before, because because it becomes so available, it becomes less valuable at the same time. And like you mentioned, artists that aren't famous are also screwed over very badly, and companies take advantage of the fact that artists are usually starving or in dire need of help when they're first starting out. So they will give them these very draconian contracts to work for very, very little and not see any kind of benefit for a long time of the stuff that they produce. And only when they then renegotiate 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later sometimes, can they start to see some kind of revenue stream? I read about the Beatles that they were all very heavily in debt when they broke up and weren't at all rich, basically, because the first contract they made was so awful that they didn't see any kind of capital from any of their record sales as a group. It all just went to EMI.
And, because it's so difficult to get into and, gain any kind of notoriety, not notoriety, but it's because it's so hard to get into the market for artists. Often the only, chance that you have is to sign a contract with a music label, or to work for a movie director, for example, to sign a contract with Warner Brothers or some other Hollywood company and be controlled that way. Because doing stuff independently is very, very difficult, especially when the huge corporations start going after you and try to, kick you out of the market because they want to maintain their monopolies, obviously.
Yeah, there are obviously artists who are self-publishing that are doing well. Like Chance the Rapper has never signed a record deal, and he's one of the most popular rappers at the moment and producers. So, and same with Frank Ocean. He also published his latest album by himself. Because of the digital era, because you can stream it, you can publish on your own, but still it means significantly less revenue. And unless they were featured on songs by people who are on labels, they wouldn't be able to sustain that model. So still, it is a very tightly controlled industry, and the what can you call the democracy of the internet has only made it harder for artists to succeed. Like, look at someone like Eric Andre, who's a comedian, who's hilarious, who wanted to be a jazz musician and pretty much was told to drop out of his university because he wanted to go into jazz, and there's just simply no jazz market anymore because no one's buying jazz records or listening to it. It's all, the top 40 music that's selling. So if you're a jazz musician today, you can't make a living, basically.
Did you just bring that up so you can, talk about Adorno and hating jazz?
For those that don't know, Adorno hated jazz.
You might also have to explain who Adorno is, by the way.
Yeah, okay. Adorno was one of my Frankfurt boys who wrote or co-wrote The Dialectic of Enlightenment, where he talks about a lot of the stuff that I just brought up, actually. The culture industry, he called it. And he constantly uses jazz as an example of terrible art, the same way that you would talk about Justin Bieber in 2012 or something, like The Baby. But he just refers to the whole jazz genre as just an example of how capitalism is turning art into utter shit. And it's hilarious to read it today because art, like jazz today, is considered very highbrow, but back then he was not having it. He thought it was just, and it was every 4 or 5 pages he would bring up jazz as a terrible example of how art is turning into garbage.
It's very interesting because I think of jazz as very free and liberated because there's a lot of improv. I mean, it's almost entirely improv. Like, none of the
ruined it.
I think he genuinely believed that jazz in its roots was capitalist and bourgeois and terrible. I couldn't tell you why, because I entirely agree with you and I love jazz, but it's just, he makes such good points that it's just kind of hilarious when he brings up how terrible jazz is out of nowhere.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe, he was a product of his time. Maybe there was some slight racism.
That's true. It was, considered an African American phenomenon at the time.
Oh yeah, it was the premier African American art back before the 50s, before 40s with blues.
Yeah.
It was all jazz, more or less. Sorry if I got that history wrong.
I don't know, when I think blues, I think 80s, but, well, no, you're probably right. It was before that.
I just think of the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I guess because you had that blues that, like Howling Wolf and those people, like the Delta blues, the stuff that turned into rock and roll eventually, the proto rock and roll, but... Yeah, I don't know if blues came. Let us know in the comments below. Are we being terribly incorrect, and did blues actually come before jazz? I don't know.
If you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave comments, do so.
And if you're not, what's wrong with you?
Send us an email otherwise, just let us know.
Yes, send us an email and
Send us an email.
educate us on.
You know, probably don't send us an email about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to read them.
I feel like the people that would email us about that have already emailed us about it.
Yeah.
You know what, fuck it. Just email us with whatever. If you want to say hello, ask us how we're doing.
Yeah.
Send us an email.
If I decide on a date, we're open.
Sure.
If you want some workout tips, ask Julia.
What? Wait, what? Hang on. Wait a minute. That's...
Oh, right, I'm the one that's into fitness.
Yes.
Right, sorry.
Yes, no, if you want to find ways to avoid working out, come to me. Or if you want to talk city planning, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Guys, the world is sad sometimes, wouldn't you agree?
It do be like that.
And you can feel really bummed out. Defeatism among leftists is common. The feeling that we'll never get anywhere, the world is corrupt, humanity is corrupt and evil and bad. And to counteract some of these feelings, I want to have a segment of this podcast that I call my Humanity is Good corner, where I, each episode, bring up one thing that just shows that humanity is good in its core. And the first one is the story about Dr. Jonas Salk. Now, a bit of background information for those who don't know. Polio exists still today technically.
Ruined my childhood.
It was a very bad thing. By the early 1950s, it attacked about 58,000 people every year. A lot of people died due to polio. Dr. Jonas Salk created a vaccine for polio in 1953, and he chose to not patent it, which made it affordable to everyone who needed it, millions of people who needed it. And thanks in large due to Dr. Salk's vaccine and the fact that it was so affordable, there are only, today, 74 cases of polio each year worldwide, compared to the 58,000 in the 1950s. And it has been estimated by Forbes that because he didn't patent the vaccine, he missed out on $7 billion. Dr. Salk died at the ripe old age of 80 on June 23, 1995 in La Jolla, California. And that's pretty dope, I think.
Yeah.
He was a pretty dope guy.
Good human.
On you, Dr. Jonas Salk. Good on you.
And we know it's pronounced La Jolla. Shut up, Californians.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it's La Jolla. I think it's La Jolla.
La Jolla.
It doesn't matter.
It almost sounds a bit Jewish. La Jolla. L'chaim.
He died in L'chaim, California.
L'chaim, California. It's so interesting to think that a single human being can have such a large impact, because he saved millions of lives. And if you just think of the domino effects, that's like millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Like, that's so many generations to come that will be alive because of what he did.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. And I think a beautiful example of the good that humanity can do if they choose to.
Yes. And what humanity can do if we just disregard profit and do things because they're the right thing to do and not do things because it will make us money.
Yeah, and it must have come at a great cost to him too personally, because he must have spent a lot of time coming up with this vaccine, but still he chose to be a mensch, as they would say in La Jolla, and and give it away, which is the right call, totally. Yeah.
I believe he spent between 3 and 5 years working on it. Conducting trials, asking for money to conduct the clinical trials needed to actually put the vaccine on the market and get it out there, because you need to test it on volunteers. I believe it was about 1 million people who volunteered to have the vaccine tested on them.
Oh wow. Wasn't this is a different kind of similar story, but the people that found penicillin, weren't they 2 scientists who infected themselves to motivate themselves to work harder or something?
Oh, it's something like that.
Yeah,
That's one
I
way
mean,
to motivate yourself. Jeez.
Yeah, reminds me of Marie Curie, who died of radiation-induced cancer, I believe, after
Yes.
working with radioactive materials.
that's dedication.
Yeah, I mean, she mostly didn't know radiation was dangerous, but I mean, she must have noticed eventually. I mean, with the rashes and the pain and the burning,
Yeah,
she probably
you'd hope
figured
so.
it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you have an uplifting story to share, it can be historical, like the one I just shared, or it can be personal, an anecdote that makes you feel good, then you can send it in to us at shitislandshow@gmail.com. And if you're wondering why it's shitislandshow@gmail.com, it's because shitisland@gmail.com was taken by someone.
Probably by The Daily Show.
I
Probably.
can't say I've ever seen The Daily Show. I'm sorry, that reference is lost on me.
You're not missing out on anything. Yeah.
No, you're really not.
Moving on to our third topic, which I don't know how much I will have to say about it, but perhaps you two will. It's the Marxist view on gender and LGBT.
Maybe you should say like the contemporary Marxist view on gender and LGBT plus.
Or
Maybe.
the Marxist views, plural.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
Different
Yes.
Marxists believe different things about these
No
things.
way. Really? Yes, they do.
What? Wait, Marxists are not, unified? What?
What's the saying that if you put two Trotskyists in a room, you'll have three new internationals and one of them will kill the other?
No, that's just
It is accurate.
Trotskyists. That's just Trotskyists, fucking hell.
Yeah, no, that I would believe that. Yeah, that's a joke. That's also true. Yeah, I think me and Jules came up with this one because there seems to be a lot of splitting happening on gender in the Marxist world. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the major Marxist publications in England, I think, did
A lot of them in England.
Yeah, a lot in England specifically. They did an editorial on their newspaper saying that they didn't support trans people and that trans people were basically bourgeois men.
Again, that describes multiple of these, Marxist groups in the UK, I'm afraid. It's,
I believe the specific one you're referring to was by
CPGBML, the CPGB, there's
Communist
there's
Party
a couple
of
of
Great
others,
Britain, Marxist Leninist.
That sounds
there's
right.
a few of them.
Yeah.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, the old school, socially conservative Stalin lovers. They're the ones who carry the big picture of Stalin on May Day.
Yeah, and I firmly believe that the reason that trans people are being singled out at the moment in culture is because there's some very reactionary forces that are trying to separate the unity of the LGBT community and targeting one group at a time, so they can test to see how resilient their common cause is. And if they can separate them, if those reactionary forces can separate the trans people and get them ousted from the LGBT community, then that's one less group of people to fight against. So this time it's trans people, next time it could be gay people, next time it could be bi people. It's just literally them testing the water. And unfortunately, a lot of Marxists are falling for that bait and going in on this fight, which I think is completely ridiculous and which is entirely against the spirit of what Marx was going for, I think, in my reading of Marx anyway. And I think we should be very careful and treat it very seriously as something that could come and bite us in the ass very soon.
It's also a way to split the left. I mean, we
Absolutely.
see the anti-SJW left, like the anti-feminist left, and they call themselves anti-SJWs, I think, is mostly what... Anti-identity politics is the thing I was thinking of.
Yeah, the wonderful people like Germaine Greer and the TERF Guard, that's very prominent at the moment on the left and very militantly against including trans people in their group.
Yeah. If we go back and just think about gender and LGBT in theory from a Marxist perspective, at least from my understanding of Marx, obviously it seems everyone who reads Marx has a bit of a different understanding of what he was trying to say, but from my understanding of Marx, is that gender and sexualities and gender roles and race and ethnicities and religion, all of these are social constructions that have been created in a way to split the proletariat up into different sections and occasionally get them to fight each other. And they exist, really the only purpose for them existing is oppression. And Marx tells us that when a social construction exists only as a method of oppression, then under communism, due to the inherent contradictions, those social constructions will be undone and will not exist anymore.
Right.
Ethnicity will not have any significant meaning at the end of the historical, the march of history, as Marx called it. And gender would be about the same. That yes, they are, something that, I think of how to word this that without getting into trouble. That under communism, race and ethnicity would be about as significant as eye color or hair color.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, they would be there, and people would, know it, but no one discriminates against green-eyed people or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We should.
Well, I mean, like in the 60s and 70s, I think we have to recognize the sexist past of a lot of the left-wing movements, especially in Europe and in the United States. You saw this split happen between feminism and leftism and communism, because women weren't really permitted to or like given the space to come up with their own theories on how to liberate women, and because back then the answer given to women about their rights was more or less uniformly, after the revolution everything will be great. And women, being cautious, rightfully so, I think, said, no, we need to work this stuff before a revolution, so we can have this as like a foundation for us to use once we come into power. But that wasn't really acceptable at the time in a lot of leftist causes. So that did create the split where we see, you talk about third wave or second wave feminism, when in reality they were really Marxist movements, or they were leftist movements, but they just weren't accepted. So they weren't branded as Marxist because Marxists didn't want anything to do with them. And I think we have to be very careful that this doesn't happen again right now, because a lot of the people on the left and a lot of Marxists, I feel, are very exclusionary about people who are transgendered or in the LGBT plus community, and use all these same terms that we used in the 70s to repel them and throw them out. And we run the risk of our, the basis of our ideology, which is acceptance, again being co-opted by centrists and even the right as something that they came up with or something that they are championing, which they aren't, and which they never will, because they don't have any ideological foundation to promote these things. They just do it for the fact that it doesn't belong to any specific movement in general. So yeah, I think we need to be very careful in how we proceed as Marxists in dealing with fellow Marxists who are in the LGBT plus community.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my take.
What's the word? Class reductionism. That's a term that's been around for ages, I believe. That, women struggle and ethnic minorities, their struggles, and all of those things are just, the sidelines. What we really should be focusing on is the class struggle.
Yes.
Which, that line is mainly championed by, old white dudes who,
very coincidentally. Really.
Yeah. Very few, black LGBT class reductionists, I would say.
That's strange.
Yeah, people who have a right to be cautious tend to not be okay with being told it'll be fine eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
We don't have to, care about sexism right now, but after the revolution, it will just be resolved.
Yeah, maybe, sure. We'll get around to this. It's on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard of that thing called the transparency phenomenon? Oliver from Philosophy Tube talked about it in his most recent video, and it's actually I read up on it, and it's a very interesting document by a law professor about the phenomenon of people in the majority, see white people, not being able to see the problems and struggles that people in society who are minorities face every single day, and are therefore more likely to believe whatever politicians tell them is the truth about what minorities are or what they experience and how privileged they are. So like as say a white person in Sweden or white person in Denmark, we don't get the whole story, and we don't really particularly care to listen to it. And the same can be said as men who aren't aware of the struggles that come with being women in society. You don't see it. It's transparent because you're not confronted with it. All you have are secondhand accounts, and you would have to decide if you believe it or not. And most people don't. Most people don't. They believe they have this, as Foucault called it, this fallacy of progress, where they seem like we have this inbuilt belief that as time has moved on, things have just magically gotten better.
Yeah.
We want to believe that things keep getting better, but they're not always. And a lot of the time, we just believe it is, and we have people in power say, "Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah, things are better, sure, yeah, they are better now."
It reminds me of MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the US, which was it last week? I think week before that.
It was in the recent.
Yeah, it was. None of us are Americans, so don't expect too much from us. But we know it happened.
It was within the last week. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike Pence went on national television and quoted Martin Luther King. Mike Pence is the vice president of the United States of America, and he's, God, I think if he was a leader in Kaiserreich, he would be under the national populist ideology, if that tells you anything.
For the gamers out there,
he's old, he's conservative. I mean, conservative doesn't even do it justice. He's more than conservative. He's reactionary. I mean,
he has a terrible record on minority issues and voting issues and all the. He's the worst person to quote Martin Luther King. And again, this goes back to what I said about feminism being co-opted by people on the right and people in like centrists, even though they didn't have anything to do with it, and they don't really champion it the way they say they do. And again, we have to be careful that doesn't happen again.
And the fucking John Oliver. I think it was John Oliver. Yeah, I'm pretty sure John Oliver included a segment from Malcolm X on his show.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sure, it's not as bad as Mike Pence quoting MLK, but it's still pretty bad, because John Oliver is, I mean, very much a centrist, liberal person. Malcolm X was the opposite. Malcolm X was left-wing. And Mike Pence quoting MLK and essentially saying that MLK would like Mike Pence if he was still around. It shows that the struggle, which at one point was contested heavily by the US state, has now been incorporated, or the struggle hasn't been incorporated, but the name of the struggle has been incorporated.
The
civil rights
aesthetics.
Yes, the aesthetics.
Exactly. Yeah, and the white. It also shows that the whitewashing of someone like Martin Luther King and especially Malcolm X has been successful. Yeah. Like you're now able to, as a very reactionary right-wing politician in the U.S., to quote Malcolm X, who was just the last person on planet Earth who would ever have you quote him if you're anything but a very radical leftist, and for radical change for the lives of African Americans in America.
Malcolm X used to be considered basically a terrorist by Americans, and MLK, for a while he was essentially the same. He was seen as a radical revolutionary in the bad way, like someone who just is there to stir up trouble and is making a fuss over nothing.
I mean, the FBI pretty much ruined his life for a good decade. So.
And now, MLK is like Abraham Lincoln. Like he's this icon of America, and he's seen as like universally good, but all of the parts about him that were undesirable, like his distaste of capitalism, for example, are done away with. No one is talking about that. No one is taught that in history class. They're just taught MLK is the guy who freed the segregated peoples of America.
He had a dream.
That's
all you need to know. He had a dream. Nothing more.
The story of MLK is he went to Washington, he made a speech, and then the president was like, all right, that sounds good, and everyone was
lived happily ever after.
Everyone lived happily ever after.
I mean, his legacy has been boiled down to 2 speeches, and he gave hundreds of speeches, but no one cares. No. And even the speeches he's remembered for, he's misquoted in multiple times, and only sections of the speeches are given out to people for analysis.
To that one line that he had a dream. That's all MLK ever had, a dream.
Yeah, that white people and black people could live together in harmony, which
is
like...
a dream. Yeah, fucking hell, look at America now. That is a dream.
But that could also be interpreted in a multitude of different ways. Like, live together in harmony could mean segregation. I mean, so... Yeah, I mean, one of the guys in my classes today said that Danish society is the best society in the world because women can vote. And, I mean, you know, I wanted to... Like, I was tired, and I'd only had 1 cup of coffee, so I didn't engage him. But if I had, I would have said something like, how is voting in and of itself moral? Or, like, how does that make anything better? Like, you could have the most bogus democracy in the world and give women the right to vote, but if your vote doesn't matter or, you know, represent what you believe in or your rights as a woman, then why is it any better to have the right to vote than to not have the right to vote if no one's going to change anything for you and make your life better?
He said Danish society is good because women can vote.
Yes.
There is no country in the world that doesn't.
Hey, Saudi Arabia doesn't.
Saudi Arabia allowed women to vote in 2011.
Wait, what?
Yes.
What?
There are 2 countries in the world where women cannot vote, and that's the Vatican City, Brunei. And the Vatican City, no women can vote because women don't live there.
There's no women.
Right? And in Brunei, women can't vote because no one can vote because it's an absolute monarchy. So men can't vote either.
My teacher, who is the stereotypical TERF, actually had a good moment in that moment where she started telling him how he was wrong. And in the middle of what she was saying, he loudly said, and I mean loudly, it rung out in the class, "But I disagree," as if her disagreeing was an offense to him. So, I mean, these people exist.
For those who don't know, listening, I'm a teacher student at university, and part of becoming a teacher is you have to handle students who have interesting views on things. So we had a class, or like a seminar essentially, about students with extreme opinions, mostly neo-Nazis and that kind of thing, and alt-righters and reactionaries and stuff. And how do you deal with that as a teacher? Sweden has very strict laws when it comes to teachers being biased or trying to promote their political views. There's a debate going on currently among teachers and teacher unions about should teachers be allowed to state what their political views are without promoting them, or should they just shut up and not talk about politics, or like talk about what their views are. And one side of that argument is, well, if teachers say, I am a liberal, I am a socialist, then the students will know that the teacher is biased. And the other view is, well, if the teacher says, I am this, then the students are more likely to consider that a valid option or whatever.
That's interesting. In Denmark, it's entirely different. It's left up to the morals of the individual teacher, what they choose to teach children, and also if they tell them what they vote for. I think the general consensus in Denmark is that if you ask a teacher what he or she votes for, they be honest. Then they say, I vote for this and this, in the I guess in the spirit of transparency, that the students can then, if the teacher speaks up or spends a lot of time on social democracy or whatever, then if a student says, are you a social democrat, then and the teacher says yes, then the student can critically say, okay, maybe this guy is, I need to do my own research.
Yeah.
But I can see points for I can there's a lot of people in my course who also study teaching that I wouldn't want to have necessarily be teachers, and definitely not say what they believe to anyone ever.
It's culture in Sweden when it comes to politics is essentially you almost never tell someone who you vote for.
All right.
It's just the way things are. But anyway.
Very different here.
So I was wondering, you just had a class on what to do if, your student is a neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question because I spoke to my English teacher like a few years ago, and she told me about this one time when, the students had to give like presentations in English, boost their English skills, blah, 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 blah. And one of the students did his presentation on why black people are not humans. They are a different species entirely. How would you deal with that situation?
Probably not allow that student to hold that presentation in front of the whole class. Probably the first step. Usually, not all teachers do it, but I do it when my students are going to hold presentation. Is I ask to see their PowerPoint first so that I know what they're making a presentation about. Just in case it's something like that. You never know.
She had not done that.
Yeah. So, of course, students are, human beings, and I teach teenagers, mostly, 13 and up to 16. And it's around that time when you start exploring the world of politics, and you sometimes pick out an ideology, and you become very attached to that ideology. Sometimes, for some students, that is Nazism or the alt-right or just reactionary politics in general. And kind of what you learn as a teacher student is don't tell them that they're wrong, because then they'll just dislike you. And instead you have to, obviously teaching them critical thinking and being critical of sources and how to think scientifically and know when a source is scientific and when it's pseudoscience is important. And that's just something that all students need to learn in general.
Right.
But especially for those kids who, for example, might believe that black people are not human. Teach them some critical thinking and to, properly cite their sources and examine sources and make sure that they are scientific and look at what the consensus of the scientific community is, that kind of thing. Obviously, the scientific community does believe that black people are humans.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Recent studies have shown.
I'll be.
If you have any complaints, please email them to gofuckyourself@gmail.com.
So, it's important that you don't isolate these students, that you shun them or in any way punish them for their views. Instead, you have to talk to them, discuss with them, and, ask them what it is that they believe. You hear them out, you listen to them, you present different perspectives to them, not telling them that they're wrong, but just saying some people believe, or, some scientists would say, or that kind of thing. You have a discussion
all
with them.
scientists would say.
And you open the door for them to change their minds. That's the, accepted way to deal with those students is you...
That sounds pragmatic.
Yeah. You can also, of course, talk to the school counselor or the principal or their parents if you want to go that route. You should probably talk to the student first. And, if a student is racist and believes that black people are not human and you have ethnic minorities in the class, then that will probably become a problem. At that point, you will have to take it up with the faculty and talk to the other teachers and, discuss what the best course of action is, because obviously racist bullying is not something that you want in your class, and You don't really at that point want to wait for the student to change their opinion by themselves.
Might take a while.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been in that situation. I don't really think that I've ever had a student who's... I mean, I haven't had that many students yet, but I don't really think I've had a student that has had, like, outspoken, extreme views on anything.
You'll get there. There's still time.
I'll let you know when that happens to me and what I do.
Yeah, please.
It's easy to tell you what I would do in theory, but I've never done it in practice. So.
Yeah. On episode 5692 of Shit Island.
Yeah.
5,000. If we do this series weekly, 5,000 weeks is 95 years.
Yeah.
Hell
We're gonna live forever.
So if we do this podcast for 95 more years, then...
From our bunkers, the global warming bunkers.
Oh yeah, we'll do it after the apocalypse. We'll keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the show must go on.
The radio stations in Fallout games.
Yeah, we have to start looking for like those, texts, the Mormons left behind on how to, rebuild society somewhere in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a strong feeling that WTF with Mark Maron is still going to be going on in 95 years.
That'd be great.
And he fucking hates the post office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you say? Has this been our daily trip to Shit Island?
Yeah.
Daily? Holy shit.
Daily.
Okay, well, we're getting daily. All right.
Enjoy daily episodes from now on.
Yeah, we'll be
Every
getting
day.
to that 5,000th episode a lot quicker this way.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking ahead.
A few years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll probably aim for weekly episodes.
Yeah, that's more likely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's round off the episode because it's getting a bit long. I hope you all enjoyed your stay on Shit Island. Come back next week.
If you made it through this episode, tell all your friends about it.
Yes, become a patron now.
Become a patron.
Yes.
Patreon.com/AsherScapegoat.
You can donate to my Patreon at patreon.com/comtown.
Yep.
I said don't mention other podcasts on this podcast.
I know. No,
Just bleep it out.
It's not even your podcast.
No, I'm in charge of Comtown. So all the money goes into my bank account. So. No, I'm kidding.
Also, justice for Peter because he got kicked out for mentioning that podcast.
Let's not get into that.
Not. We'll talk about that when we have Bad Mouse as a guest.
Oh,
yes.
Whoa. Oh shit.
Yes.
Look at that.
I'm all for that. I want to bury the hatchet, and I love you, Bad Mouse. I didn't mean to. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to. Please take me back.
No, you have to be like, fuck you, Bad Mouse, debate me on Shit
Yeah,
Island.
start drama. Come on,
Yeah.
get some YouTube drama
You know what?
going.
Okay, okay. Bad Mouse, hey, more like your name is accurate because you're bad and you made a bad decision and you made an enemy and you'll regret it. You'll live to regret it if you don't let me back into your server. I just mentioned a podcast. You're going to let me in, mouse that is bad.
Yeah, come on, Shit
Hell
Island.
yeah.
Debate Peter.
Yep.
Bad Mouse.
Yep.
Debate me.
Do it.
I love your work, by the way. Debate me.
To quote the great rapper DMX, Peter's gonna give it to you.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and like this video. If you're listening to this on iTunes, give us 5 stars. If we're on iTunes by the time you're listening to this, it's gonna take a while because it has like a 2-week period where it's like reviewing. Anyway, if you're listening on a podcast app that doesn't have a vetting process, thank you all for listening, and we will see you in the
Yes,
next one.
thank you very much.
Come back next week or whenever we can be bothered again.
Woo!
Be good to each other.
Hell yeah.
Always be good to each other. Guys, I'm planning on making YouTube videos at some point, so when I do, I'll make sure to subscribe to my channel.
Is it over now?
Hey!
I like how we ended that.